NBA playoff games have been recently marred by unruly behavior from some of its fans. In a recent rash of ugly incidents, players have been spat on or even had objects thrown at them by fans, among other disturbing conduct.
The Brooklyn Nets star point guard Kyrie Irving walked off the TD Garden Court in Boston after his team's 141 and 126 victory over the Celtics in their first round series. A plastic water bottle sailed past his head just as he was about to enter the tunnel leading to the visiting locker room. The Philadelphia 76ers banned a fan from Wells Fargo Center indefinitely, according to a statement Thursday, after the incident involving Washington Wizards' Russell Westbrook in the Game 2 of their first NBA round playoff series Wednesday night. After suffering an ankle injury, Westbrook was walking off the court when a fan dumped popcorn on the point guard's head. The New York Knicks said they have banned a fan who spit on Atlanta Hawks guard Trae Young on Wednesday night during Game 2 of their first round playoff series.
In discussions about these incidents, we're back with our contributors. We have with us Brother Dr. Asad El-Malik, and we have with us Attorney Gavin Richard. Thank you, brothers, for joining us.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, Brother Willie.
And we'll get straight to it. You know, in discussions about these incidents, I feel that there's an elephant in the room that's not and has not really been addressed by the players as well as by most of the television sports commentators. I may have read one article where they mentioned it, which is the target of many of these unruly fans have been black players. I haven't come across an incident where it was a white player who was spat on, a popcorn was drawn on. So my first question is, I'll start with you, Attorney Richard, and then we'll go to our brother Dr. Malik. Does race play a factor in these incidents, or is this just a case of an unruly fan?
Well, I think the racial element is always a factor. We have to keep in mind the NBA, like the NFL, is predominantly African-American, filled with black players. I believe it may be 85 to 90% black in the NBA. And I believe in the NFL, it's probably close to 80%. If I'm being, my numbers may be off, but I think that's an accurate description. The racial element, as I said, is always there. And bear in mind, too, you are in the middle of a pandemic still. We have not been cleared of the coronavirus, although people are anxious to get back. And to have a fan actually spit on a player like Trae Young, and also I believe he interacted with 50 Cent's girlfriend. She was actually spat on because if you look at that video again, she jerked herself. So, but this player, Trae Young, my understanding, did not even want to press charges. A precedent needs to be set with any fan goes there and throws something at a player, whether it's Russell Westbrook, whether it's Kyrie Irving or Trae Young. They need to be charged with an assault and or battery, because this behavior is unacceptable. But it's very typical from what I've seen, and I'm not describing all people like this, but you know, as you play in the NFL and the NBA, black athletes are particularly seen as commodities. They are treated as slaves. You know, there's a book I believe called The $1 Million Slave that we see, and I know we're going to talk about the NFL a little bit later, but this is totally unacceptable that this happens. To ban these fans, unruly fans, is one thing. Having them thrown in jail is another. And an assault charge should have been given to the man who spat, the Neanderthal, I would say, who spat on Trae Young. And Mr. Young should have taken a more aggressive role in wanting to press charges. It's very similar, Willie, if you think about this, to the case that happened in New York, the Central Park Karen, who called the police on the brother after he told her to watch it with the dog. The dog couldn't be on the leash, but this man chose not to press charges because he felt she suffered enough. Now she's actually suing her company to get her job back. Had he done so and followed up, because he obviously, and I think he has there's some issues with him, and I'm calling him a brother is questionable for me, but
yes,
nevertheless, this black man, you know, I know he's LGBTQ as well. He goes and not press charges on this woman who called 911, which is filing a false police report. That is a crime.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
A precedent should have been set because he's endangering other black people, not just him. Other black men could have been, very well could have been arrested or i.e. killed had
Okay.
that occurred.
Right. Let's hear Dr. Asad. What are your comments, Doc? Do you think race played a factor? You heard what the attorney said in these incidents, or it's just a case of unruly fans?
Well, I think it's definitely a mixture of unruly fans, but race always plays an issue in the United States of America. The brother alluded to the book $40 Million Slaves, which is a reference to, which is a book about NFL players and the draft and not having agency and ownership over themselves. The owners of these teams are called owners, much like slave owners were called owners during slavery. And oftentimes, white America does not mind black folk entertaining them. However, it's
Right.
with the it comes from it's kind of rooted in the plantation mentality that you're able to entertain me as long as you're entertaining me in a way that I approve of. This is the way white folks feel. And then when I disapprove of it, I can then resort as an owner, right? And I'm not speaking of the actual owners of the team, but the ownership mentality that white folk have over black people. Then I can resort to disrespect when you have not entertained me in the way that I deem suitable.
Yes,
So
sir.
when you lose a game, I can throw something at you, I can spit on you, or when you just express the fact that you are human and express your agency. We've even seen the same thing with the sister, the sister that plays tennis. Oh my God, her name escapes me right now.
Naomi Osaka.
Naomi Osaka. She refuses to give interviews because of her mental health. Here she is guarding her own health, exercising her own agency to protect her mental health, and then she is fined, criticized, and ridiculed, and we have to have other black athletes come to her aid. Then eventually she leaves the French Open. So this is about the way white folk in America view black people, and particularly in particular black athletes are one of the last vestiges of ownership of other people. Hence the name owners in when we're talking about.
Yes, sir. So I read in an article this guy by the name of Sam Summers, who he's the chair of the psychology department at Tufts University, and he's wrote a book that's titled "Your Brain on Sports." Right, and he's saying that he believes that a large portion of this unruly behavior is a result of this pent up energy that people have been experienced because of being restricted by the COVID quarantine. What do you think about that, Attorney Rashad?
Well, I think there may be some merit to it. However, I don't certainly agree on espouse to that. And I will say this: while we have been out for over a year in our homes, we've been on quote unquote lockdown. I can remember episodes, especially when I was, for instance, this Bottlegate incident that happened out in Cleveland in 2001, where the officials called the game end to a game, although the players actually the game was just going on, and the fans were still throwing bottles on the field. So this behavior, things like that, I haven't seen anything as extreme as that, but that goes on. It's always been like that. What I think you have here are fans who got too close, who are too close for comfort, and are under the impression that an NBA player or NFL player cannot get them, or that they are untouchable. Well, if we remember the 2004 Malice in the Palace at Auburn Hills, when Ron Artest had a beer thrown at him while he was laying on top of the announcer's table, he personally ran into the crowd and attacked those men. And those men should have been charged with an assault and battery. Of course, who was the one that was called thug and hooligan? Steven Jackson and your Ron Artest. Ron Artest lost endorsement deals. He also lost pay. He was also suspended for a whole year as a result of it. He had the longest suspension of any NBA player in history at that time. So, and then he comes back and he calls himself Meta World. So, you know, they were completely broken. And NBA players, NBA fans, they have always been under this impression that they can do whatever they want to do. And
Yes,
like
sir.
I say again, when you buy a ticket, when you go to a stadium, there are provisions on that ticket that state that you can be ejected from a game for unruly behavior. But this has gone beyond unruly behavior. When you spit on someone, that is a crime. That is a battery. And of the COVID-19,
like you.
Certainly, I think penalties could be stricter for stuff like that.
And I'm glad that you led on that point, because we're almost to our break with Dr. Asad. You know, we heard where the attorney talked about there should be stricter penalties, there should be legal ramifications and criminal charges that are actually posed. One was done so in Boston. So, brother Dr. Asad, so the NBA banned the unruly fans, but do you think that, you know, that the league's response is it enough to deter this type of behavior in the future?
Well, I'm not sure how much the league can actually do when it's thousands of people and you have, you know, one or two unruly individuals who seek to, you know, be disrespectful and, as the attorney pointed out, break the law by spitting on someone or throwing a bottle. I think banning them is about as far as the league can go. Maybe reinforcing the rules and regulations at the beginning of a game, and ensuring that security acts swiftly to deal with any individual that is unruly in the league. I think, as the attorney pointed out, all players who are assaulted in such manner should be pressing charges, because it sets a precedent that they will not be that their agency will not be dismissed nor diminished. You know, there should be some legal ramifications as it relates to these type of actions.
Wow, that's interesting. Any other closing, briefly, attorney? Any other closing thoughts on that?
Yes, what the doctor is absolutely right. The NBA can't arrest anyone. They have no authority to do that. The most that they can do are suspend any unruly fans, or to suspend those fans that do such behavior and not invite them back again. That was the case, and that was done in 2004 when David Stern was the commissioner of the NBA. But like I said, precedents need to be set, Brother Willie, because if they keep getting away with doing stuff like this, you're going to have an event, I think, even worse than the Malice in the Palace. Because Russell Westbrook, if you look at that clip, he actually was going to go in that crowd with a twisted ankle. He was that hot over that. They're going to mess with the wrong one.
Wow. And we thank you, both of you brothers, for your comments regarding this particular issue about these unruly fans. So what we're going to do now, we're going to pause for our announcements from our sponsors. And when we come back, our contributors are going to talk about the NFL ending this practice of race norming. And we'll be right back after these announcements.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.
Worldwide, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Download the Final Call Radio app and take us everywhere. On your phone, on your computer, on your tablet, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can also log on to finalcall.com and click the Listen Live button, or finalcallradio.com. Final Call Radio, the official voice of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam.
Please share your thoughts with us in the comment section below. Follow us on social media at NNV News, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel at National Network View. I am Anissa Muhammad with nnvnews.com.
So the NFL on Wednesday pledged to halt the use of race norming, which assumed that black players started with a lower cognitive function. In this $1 billion settlement of brain injury claims and to review the past scores of any potential race bias, that's what the NFL agreed to do. So returning with us, we have our commentators who are going to give a comment after we play this short clip talking about this race norming.
Part of its billion-dollar settlement of a class action lawsuit over concussions is promising to end a practice called race norming, whereby cognitive test scores of black players assume a lower level of function. From the Washington Post report on this, quote, the use of race norms in the NFL's concussion settlement payouts first came to light last August when two former players accused the league in a lawsuit of discriminating against hundreds and potentially thousands of former black players. In their suit, former players Najee Davenport and Kevin Henry alleged that race norming prevented them from getting settlement payouts. In Davenport's case, he claimed that a doctor initially diagnosed him with dementia, but the NFL appealed and demanded his test scores get curved using race norm data, which resulted in a reversal of the diagnosis.
Wow. So I know both of you gentlemen are intelligent and have done your research on this, and we'll start with you, Dr. Asad. So, you know, what's your overall thoughts about this practice?
You know, oddly enough, the practice was actually rooted in the, liberal ideas and written in many affirmative action bills, right? To start with these biased tests and to group each individual based on their race, or to compare different scores only to other individuals of the same race. This is Henry Clay 3/5 compromise. This is the idea that we are less than a human being, and we're only 3/5 of a human being. So we, as the brother Minister Farrakhan once said, we have arms, but they don't work a bill for us. We have eyes, but we can't see. We have ears, but we cannot hear. This is that type of idea about African Americans, that we're not fully human, that we're just a little slower, that we're in terms of our cognitive functioning, that we're just not as sharp, we're a little duller. We could run fast, and we're kind of strong, so they allow us to play these sports. But again, our mind is not as sharp. This is the idea behind race norming, so that when you compare our scores, we should be compared. Our high and our lower scores should be different than other human beings, in particular white human beings.
Wow. And Attorney Rashad, what are your thoughts about this practice of race norming?
Well, just me learning about this actually, and before I came on here, I started looking up some information. I'm reading here, if you go even on Wikipedia, that at one point there were at least 38 states that used this race norming practice prior to it being outlawed. The Civil Rights Act of 1991 supposedly banned the use of race norming test practices. It was actually implemented by the federal government in 1981. The NFL is a 501c3 status. They are a tax exempt organization, so they do not have to claim taxes. Although they are practically $1 billion corporation. Every Thursday night game, Monday night game, Sunday night game, Sundays in the afternoon, they are making millions of dollars, billions of dollars. Not just that, but on merchandise, and most of that are black. Of course, are black players. And we see how they have been treated. Just look at Deshaun Watson recently. What I'm seeing, it is disturbing, Brother Willie, but it was even more disturbing once, and I didn't know this, but I believe it was Brother or Dr. Boyce Watkins who took some pictures or had pictures of these NFL athletes at the combine. And just like slaves on an auction block, they actually had to have their shirts taken off and they're stripped down to their underwear, so the NFL owners can get a look at them. The NFL, especially during the draft season. So they do the combines and so forth. So there is always that element. There's always going to be that racial element that plays a factor in sports. It's always present. It was present last night in the Mayweather versus Paul fight, where you had the great white hope, the great white hype that they were trying to see to beat the great Floyd Mayweather Jr., Floyd Money Mayweather Jr., because he made a lot of money even from just sitting in the dressing room in that fight. But the NFL has a history strong, vehement history of racism, being vehemently racist. You know, seeing this information that they just now ended it when it was outlawed by the feds, what 30 years ago, shows that they are not ahead of the times. They're rather far back behind. We still don't have a black NFL owner. The great Walter Payton, who played for the Chicago Bears, tried to be an owner after he retired in Jacksonville, but they chose not to give that to him. You had another black man who was trying to buy the Minnesota Vikings in 2002, I believe. He did not get it. It went to Ziggy Wolf. So
yes, sir,
has been behind on these things, and this doesn't surprise me.
Yes, sir. Thank you for that. And Dr. Asad, you actually mentioned this in your previous comments about it, how this practice was actually started as a way that was supposed to combat something that was negatively impacting black players, but now something that was meant to combat, be a protection for them, is now being shown that is actually being used to further enhance racial discrimination against. Like, what does that say about the racial climate or racism in America? That something that was meant to protect them against racial treatment is being used against them.
It shows how deeply rooted racism is in the United States and in every facet of American culture, and that is such a complicated and complex problem that we have that it's almost impossible to fix. And if we can get back to the NFL and their decision, keep in mind these players were seeking damages for brain injuries that they suffered while playing in the NFL. One individual goes to a doctor and the doctor says, yeah, he has dementia. The NFL comes back and says, no, you have to apply these racial norming ways of assessing his cognitive abilities, which then says, okay, he didn't have dementia. He's just a regular black person, right? That's ultimately what they're saying, is that one doctor said his cognitive functioning was at the level to where he looked like he had dementia. And the NFL came back and said, well, no, if you apply racial norming and understand that his cognitive function should be in this range because he's black, then he doesn't have dementia. He's just black. So we really think about how deep this particular situation with the NFL is. They have basically, diminished our ability as African American, or that African American, and said that his functioning was equal to that of dementia in any other race of human beings.
Wow, and that is wild, man. That basically they just, when you read the reports, they're basically saying that they're dumb. That's what they're basically saying. And what's interesting, and we'll come to you on this one, Attorney Rashad. Then we'll close out with our brother Dr. Malik. While this is going on, while Colin Kaepernick while he was just persecuted for the stance that he take, and on the heels of the NFL talking about we're embracing the Black Lives Matter, you had the NFL players talking about it, and everybody agreed to hold arms in the middle of the Super Bowl. So, with that being said, the question is racial equity attainable in this society for Black people? We'll start with you, Attorney Rashad, and then we'll close out with Dr. Malik. Gotta unmute your mic, my brother. Look like he's froze. We'll come back. Well, Dr. Malik, we'll come with you. So is racial equity?
Okay, I'm having trouble hearing you, brother Willie. Can you hear me?
So my bad. I apologize. So is racial equity even attainable in this society?
I don't think so. I think it is very difficult here in the United States for us to see equity, for us to see equality, for there to be a society that is just and fair without a total revolution. And I don't mean a violent revolution, but a total revolution of the way this country operates. You and I were speaking previously before we got on camera about the way South Africa moved post-apartheid, rewriting its entire constitution, because in the constitution was embedded the racism and the apartheid was embedded in the constitution. So they had to come up with a new constitution. After 1865, they made amendments, but they did not rewrite the constitution in a way that really represented equality and equity for all of its citizens. So I'm referring to now the United States. So I think it is really impossible, a very difficult task. Let me say that. It's a very difficult task for Black Americans and other people of color to actually live in a society where we will actually be valued, where we will actually understand that we have access to justice, that we have agency, and that we live in an equitable society, as long as things exist the way they exist now. And we have gone far too long in this country, right? We're 400 years in, since the slave trade, 200 plus years in here since 1776 in the United States, formerly the United States, without any serious racial reconciliation, right? We were freed. We were not given the type of retribution and reparations that we needed in order to make ourselves whole, to make us active and productive members of society, and to repay the debt that is done that is owed to us. So I'm not sure that it'll be able to happen.
Thank you, Doc. And now we have 2 more minutes before we go to our next break, Attorney Richard. So the question I was asking, this is taking place while the football league is talking about Black Lives Matter. So, and since we opened up the show, we've been talking about these racial issues. From your standpoint, is racial equity attainable in this society for Black people?
Well, let me just say, when you mentioned Black Lives Matter, briefly, Black Lives Matter is a LGBTQ front, a socialist front. They have no really ties to the community, to Black men, other than they use their bodies of dead Black men to make money. They are anti-family, they're anti-heterosexuality, but I know that's another topic. To answer your question, though, we have to remember, and I'll tie it into what's been going on as to what the brother doctor had stated. It is possible. However, we have to make it possible. No matter where we go, whatever country we are in, we are still going to deal with white supremacy. The brother mentioned South Africa. My understanding, even in South Africa, that there are still places there that are still segregated, and Blacks still do not control the economics of their area. And that is a big problem with the Black community now. We even see that in Tulsa. We should be not asking Joe Biden for reparations. We should be taking it. And by taking it, meaning that we demand you either pay us reparations, or we're going to get you guys out of office, one way or the other. Now, let me be clear. I'm not using that as a way to threaten the life of the president or any other politician or any way, shape, or form. I have to clarify that, Brother Willie. But they can be recalled, just like what they're doing in California. In California, do you know that they have been trying to recall Gavin Newsom over the past year by the way he has handled the COVID-19 pandemic? Even Governor Cuomo in New York, there are calls for him to, of course, step down over sexual assault allegations. That's something different. But people are frustrated with it.
And we got to go to this. We got to go to this break. And when we come back, we'll be discussing with our commenters a very hot topic dealing with the denial of parole for Bill Cosby. We'll be right back.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Your support helps to combat false media. Cash App NNV News.
Asiatic Minds, online education, helping our children to discover their God-given skills, gifts, talents, and passion that will allow them to see their greatness as well as the greatness of our people. And upon discovering that greatness, infusing them with the desire to use it for the betterment of themselves, their families, our people, and the world. Classes begin September 1st. To enroll, visit AsiaticMinds.com.
This is Sister Sajda Muhammad. We are proud to announce that the Sajda House commemorative Elijah coins are finally here. This priceless heirloom, made from recycled copper from the messenger's home, is now available at sajdahouse.com.
Greetings from National Network View. This week's final call cover story headline reads, "The battle in the sky is near." For 90 years, the Nation of Islam was mocked and ridiculed for its teachings on the mother plane and its aim and purpose. Now the government admits these UFOs are real, vindicating what the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has warned of and prophesied. This FCM volume number 35 edition middle page article is a message by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan entitled "The Will, the Great Mother Plane, the Power of the Will to Destroy." To read more, subscribe to finalcalldigital.com and tune in to the all-new Final Call Radio. This is the nnvnews.com Final Call Cover Report.
Please make sure you leave your comments and questions in the comment section below. Follow us on Facebook, National Network View, and make sure to check us out on Twitter as well, National Network View. This is Sergio Gutierrez with National Network View, signing off.
So entertainment legend Bill Cosby recently was denied parole at the Pennsylvania prison where he was been incarcerated since 2016, and he's serving a 3 to 10 year sentence for aggravated sexual assault. The Pennsylvania Parole Board denied the 83-year-old actor and comedian producer, according to reports, for a few reasons, as it shows in this clip.
The board cited a number of reasons for its decision, including that Cosby must complete sexual violent predator courses. A spokesperson for Cosby says the denial is not surprising, but Cosby continues to proclaim his innocence and remains hopeful his conviction will be vacated. Cosby was convicted on sexual assault charges in 2018. He was sentenced to 3 to 10 years in prison.
So coming back with this, and we'll start with you, Dr. Asad. You know, what are your thoughts? Even though he proclaims his innocence, should Bill Cosby still have to participate in these institutional programs as part of the requirement that can even see if he'll be eligible for parole?
You know, I think Attorney Gavin may correct me on this, but I believe he's up for parole. I mean, not parole, he's up for appeal. And, you know, participating in these classes may affect his appeal status. It may be used as some sort of admission of guilt or, you know, admission that he actually did something wrong or that he needed these classes. So I'm not sure if it would be in his best interest to take these classes, and just in a very general sense, if he really believes that he's innocent and he did not commit these crimes or the crimes that he has committed, I mean, that he's been convicted for, then, you know, this may be his own personal rebellion, his way of resisting the system, you know, raging against the machine.
I know you've talked about this a lot online and everything. So what are your thoughts?
Well, Brother Doctor, you are correct. Had Bill Cosby actually met with the parole board, it could hurt his appeal chances. His appeal has been pending before the court since December, when oral arguments were heard on December 1st, 2020. To do a parole here, for him to go to parole, he would have to undergo counseling. He would basically have to show remorse for something that he claims he did not do. And if he is guilty, he would have actually, in my opinion, legal opinion, he would have actually gone ahead and done this so he could hurry up and get out. An innocent person would not do this unless they were just trying, they actually did it, or they were trying to get out early. And he has stated publicly that he is willing to do his whole time because he's not going to admit to something that he did not do. This case from the beginning, Brother Willie, should not have even been brought to trial. Let's start with that. There was an agreement by the opposing district attorney, the prior DA, Bruce Castor, who stated in an affidavit that he had agreed that Bill Cosby would not be prosecuted for allegedly assaulting Andrea Constant. He did not believe Constant's story. There was inconsistencies. Ms. Constant even admitted on the witness stand that she had moments where she was intimate with Mr. Cosby prior to the assault, that alleged assault that happened. She actually went back to his house again, even after the assault occurred. This current DA, Kevin Steele, actually ran on a campaign promise that if he got elected by the people of Montgomery County, he would go after Bill Cosby. The judge in the case, Stephen O'Neill, he allowed 5 prior bad act witnesses to testify, and that's one of the appealable issues that we have here, who had not only questionable backgrounds, but some of them they were outright criminals. One lady had a perjury charge against her. You had Janice Dickinson, who was allowed to testify, and yet she had a pending lawsuit. All of these women had pending lawsuits against Bill Cosby, which should have affected their credibility to testify. Why? Because they have a pecuniary interest in the case. So it should have never been done. It should have never been brought up. And for an 83-year-old blind veteran, let's be real, because we all talk about how we love our veterans, to be sitting in jail with the slimmest of evidence. There has been no rape kit, no toxicology report. The only thing that we have gone on is the fact that people just don't like Bill Cosby. I have seen black entertainers who have thrown Mr. Cosby under the bus, Dr. Cosby under the bus, because they were upset the fact that he criticized black people about their acts and how they behave. And I actually have talked to some people who feel the same way, even though they don't care about the case or the evidence. They just think Bill Cosby is an a-hole. And I say to them, well, if that's the case, then half the country, we have 350 million people in the United States, then nearly at least 170 million people ought to be locked up, because a lot of them are a-holes too. If it were legal to be an a-hole, illegal to be an a-hole, a lot of people would be locked up. This is a man who has contributed more to our historically black colleges and universities than any other celebrity outside of Michael Jackson. I have spoken, and I know we got to run, but I know Tom Mesereau, who was Bill Cosby's attorney. He was Michael's attorney. And you go online to my YouTube channel, GBootu786. When I interviewed him, he has stated, and he's also been on record saying, that this trial was the most biased, unfair trial that he had ever been a part of in his 30-year career as a defense attorney. And Tom Mesereau is one of the best criminal defense lawyers in this country. He tries cases in the Deep South. And he said those cases, those death penalty cases, were nothing compared to being in that courtroom for the judge to allow outbursts from witnesses. This was the stuff that was going on. You have one witness was asking, do you remember me, Mr. Cosby, in front of the jury? This should have never been happened. You had protesters outside the courtroom where the jurors could see this. You had one juror allegedly who said, we can all go home, he's guilty, during voir dire. The judge asked him, did you say this? The juror did not confirm it, but he didn't deny it either. He could have been struck for cause. The judge was stacking the deck in this case, Brother Willie. They were allowing this. And mainstream media was just as much as a culprit in this matter.
Yes, sir. And we'll get ready to close on this question. You touched on it. You talked about the contribution and the effect that Bill Cosby has had on America, white America, and even black America. And I'll ask you about this, Dr. Asad. So we know that his show, The Cosby Show, Even Different World, that these programs have positively affected not only black, but also white. But as a result of his conviction, these shows have been pulled from mainstream America television. There are no reruns. Do you think that was a fair decision for them to make with his shows?
Oh, absolutely. It's unfair. It's totally unfair to the other cast members. Bill Cosby was not the only cast member. In fact, he was not even a cast member on A Different World. The pulling of Bill Cosby's Cosby Show and a Different World is really about the images that Bill Cosby portrayed over the years throughout his shows. Very positive images, successful black people, a loving family, a strong black lead, a father in the Cosby Show who was also sensitive to his wife, a very good father to his children. See, these images don't, they're not conducive to the type of stereotypes that they would like to paint about African-American men. So yeah, it definitely was truly unfair to pull The Cosby Show and A Different World from the streaming services. But keep in mind, Different World never got the type of accolades that it was supposed to get, even when it was on TV. this is one of the greatest TV shows, in my opinion, even a better show than the Cosby Show itself, because of its cultural impact on African Americans wanting to attend historically Black colleges and universities. You know.
Wow. And we thank you both of you all gentlemen for the commentary that you gave. And we also for those who are watching, our brother attorney Rashad has a show that's on YouTube. Attorney, can you briefly tell them the name of your show and when they can watch it?
Sure. I do a live stream every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday on channel GBoot 2786 and my self-entitled page, Gavin Richard. It's called Random Topics. We do random topics with special guests. I've had author Sean James. The Honorable Judge Joe Brown has stopped by. I'm actually going on a show with him tonight with brother Bernard Johnson, King BJ Johnson, who has a show. So you guys can check me out there.
Yes, sir. And our brother, Dr. Asad Malik. He and his family will be relocating to South Africa, but you also have a YouTube page, right? And you talk about your experience. Can you talk about that so people can go and check it out?
Yeah, it's Asad El-Malik on YouTube. And it's really just our experiences traveling to South Africa, as well as different places my family and I would like to travel. And it's about our travels. In fact, it's the name of this show is called A-Team, Family Travels, and details our experiences moving around this world.
Well, and definitely, and hopefully we'll be able to bring you back, man, and we'll have a show where we'll speak just about that whole process, just the different sides of it, because it's definitely something as Black folks we definitely need to consider. Thank you all, brothers, for tuning in and joining us at this time. We appreciate your commentary, and we also thank our guests for tuning in as well. So make sure that you subscribe to National Network View. Please share your thoughts with us in the comment section. Please encourage people to tune in to watch these shows and the commentary that the content that we're providing. And please subscribe to the YouTube channel. We thank those who have made it possible for us to have 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. We want more. This is your brother Willie Muhammad with National Network View News. Peace.
Be a part of the force that powers truth in journalism. Go to nnvnews.com/donate.